Welcome! In the last lecture, we created a basic enum notify that will print debug messages to the screen when our animation has reached a certain point. In this lecture, we'll look at how we can use this to spawn footprints. And it's actually a bit trickier than we'd expect. So first, we'll need to handle this spawn limitation. So we should only spawn footprints in snowy weather and not in sunny weather. Then we'll need to find a way to detect the surface while our character is running. And the last one, we need to figure out the current landing foot. So should we spawn footprint for the left foot or the right foot? And we'll tackle these issues one by one. Back to my project, to figure out the current weather, same as everything that we've done, I like to use a macro to do it. But if I double click to open this enum notify, inside of this blueprint, we are not allowed to create macros. But if I right mouse button click and type in for each loop, or hold down B to bring out the branch node. So we are allowed to use the macros, but we are not allowed to create them directly in here. And the reason why we can use these macros is they belong to the standard macro library. To create our own macro for enum notify, we can create a new macro library for it. So I'm going to delete these two macros. Then I'm going to go back to my content browser, and I'm going to right mouse button click and go to blueprint, and in here we can select this blueprint macro library. So this is how we can create our own library. I'm gonna click it. Then in here we need to specify the parent class. So this step here decides which class this library will be visible to, and it'll be our enum notify. So I'm gonna type in enum notify here and select this one as the parent class and click select. And I'm gonna change its name to enum notify macro library and double click to open it. So for the first macro, I'm going to change its name to is sunny. Then I'm going to right mouse button click and type in get scalar parameter value. Then change the collection to our weather properties and change the parameter name to this is snowing. Then I'm going to connect this pin to here and connect this one to the outputs. Then I'm going to drag out this return value. And I'm going to query if this value is equal to 0. And I'm going to connect this pin to the outputs. So if this is snowing is equal to 0, then that means the current weather is sunny. Later, when we add in rainy weather, we'll need to check more conditions here. Alright, I'm going to click save and go back to my enum notify. I'm going to delete this print string now. Then right mouse button click and I'm going to type in is sunny. And this is the new macro that I just created. So bring it out and connect this pin to here. And I'm going to use a branch node. So connect this pin to here and connect this one to here. And that's the spawn limitation taken care of. So we should only spawn footprints when this is sunny returns false. And I'm going to place a new node here. So next thing, we'll need to detect the surface. I'm going to type in line trace and select this line trace for objects. So we'll need to specify a line trace star in the end to find out the spawn location for our footprint. And we'll take care of this line trace star first. So we should use our character spawn location as the starting point of this line trace. More specifically, we'll need to use the spawn location for the left and right foot. And just to show you what the options there, I'm going to go back to my content browser and go inside of third person, characters, mannequins, and meshes. I'm going to open this menu symbol. Under the skeleton tree here, these are the bones our character has. And for the foot bones, now if I type in foot. So this is foot underscore L, this is for the left foot, and this foot underscore R, this is for the right foot. So we should use them as our starting point. And I'm going to go back to my enum notify. And to get hold of their locations, we can use the function input, this mesh component. To access this function input, the first way we can use is we can directly drag out this pin. Or the second way, we can directly right mouse button click and type in mesh comp. And we can use this get mesh comp. The second way should give us a much cleaner graph. Then I'm going to drag out this pin and type in get socket location. Select this one. And for this in socket name, this is where we can fill in the bone name. Then we can get hold of its location. But to do this, we'll need to figure out what the current landing foot is. And there are two ways for us to solve this. So the first way, we can create two enum notifies, one for the left foot and one for the right foot. Or the second way, we can use another enum to tell us. So I'm going to go back to my content browser, and I'm going to go inside of enum. Then right mouse button click and go to blueprint, select this enumeration, and I'm going to call it e foot type, and double click to open it. So it's going to have two enumerators inside. The first one, I'm going to call it left foot, and the second one, I'm going to call it right foot, and hit save. Now if I go back to my nm notify, I'm going to create a variable of this type. So click this add button, and I'm going to change its name to current landing foot, and change its type to e foot type. So select this one. Then I'm going to click this eye icon. You'll know why we need to do this later. And I'm going to click compile. And I'm getting an error message related to this function. I'm going to disconnect this pin first and click compile again. And the default value for this current landing foot is left foot. And now if I go back to my animation and select this nm notify, now we can see the variable that we just created. So this current landing foot. And we'll only see this when we have this eye icon turned on for this variable. So now inside of our animation, we can specify what's the current landing foot. For the first one, the landing foot should be left foot. And for the second one, so I'm going to move it to here, and I'm going to change the landing foot to right foot. I think it's a bit crowded in here. I'm going to create a new notify track and move this one to the new notify track. And just like that, we have just figured out the current landing foot by using one nm notify. And the next thing, I'm going to go back to my nm notify blueprints. Then I'm going to hold down Control and drag out this current landing foot. And drag out this pin, I'm going to switch on it and connect this false pin to here. Then I'm going to move these nodes out and move this one out. So now for this get socket location, for this in socket name, this value here should be entirely depending on this current landing foot. And for that purpose, I'm going to right mouse button click and promote it to a local variable. And I'm going to change its name to current landing bone name and click compile. Very important here, we should only use a local variable and not a variable for the bone name. The reason for that is, for this function we are overriding this received notify, this is a const function. So that means inside of this function, we are not allowed to modify variable. Now if I try to drag out this current landing foot, and you can see we can only get it and not set it. But for a local variable, we have no such constraint. So here we can click this set current landing bone name. And that's because a local variable is only visible to this function, and it doesn't exist outside of this function. Alright, the next thing that I want to do, I'm going to connect this pin to here. When the current landing foot is left foot, this bone name should be foot_L. And I'm going to duplicate this node. When the landing foot is right foot, its name should be foot_R. Then I'm going to move this node to here and connect this pin to here and connect this one to here. Now with the information we have, we can specify the line trace start. So I'm going to move to here, and for this get socket location, we can use its return value as our line trace start. And I'm going to move these nodes to here, connect this pin to here. So we have line trace start taken care of. We need to specify the line trace end. For that, we'll need to do a bit of vector math. I'm going to drag out this pin and use an add node. And for the vector that I'm going to add, I'm going to duplicate this mesh component and drag out this pin and type in get up vector and select this one. So for our line trace, we should be tracing down, and this up vector here can tell us which direction is down. All we need to do is invert this vector. So drag out this pin, and I'm going to use a multiply, and right mouse button click this pin and change it to float the single precision, and change the value into -1. And the return result of this is our down vector. And then I'm going to scale this vector. By default, the length will be 1, and that's just too short for us to use. So I'm going to use another multiply node and convert this one to a float. And change the value here to 100 units. Then I'm going to plug the final result into the add node. And this is our line trace end. I'm going to plug this one into the end. Then we'll need to specify object types. So the default input type is an array, and I'm going to drag out this pin and type in make. So we can make an array. And inside of this array, we already have one element called word static, and that's exactly what we want. So our landscape is a type of word static, and we only need one element inside of our array. Alright, I'm gonna move this node down. Then we don't need to take this trace complex, and for this draw debug type, I'm gonna click this drop down and change this to persistent. So by doing this, we should be able to see the line trace hit inside of our level. And the last thing, I'm going to connect this execution pin to the return node and click compile. Then I'm going to go back to my animation. We just need to fill up the nm notifies for this animation. So I'm going to start with the left foot. I'm going to select this one, press Ctrl+C to copy it. Then we'll need to click the spot that we want to paste this nm notify to and press Ctrl+V. Then I'm going to click this spot here, press Ctrl+V again. Alright, that's the left foot taken care of. The next one is the right foot. So I'm going to select this and then notify. Press Ctrl+C to copy it. Make sure the current landing foot is right foot. And click this spot here, press Ctrl+V. Click this spot, press Ctrl+V again. That should be all of it. I'm going to hit save and go back to my level. Let's test this. I'm going to click play and start to run around in my level. As I'm doing that, I can see a bunch of red dots inside of my level, and those are the line trace hit. So this indicates our line trace is working. And that's great. We have both left foot and right foot working. So these are the things that I've done inside of my nm notify. I first created a macro to tell us if the current weather is sunny. And in order to create this macro, we'll need to create this macro library for our nm notify. And inside of this is sunny macro, I simply checked if this is snowing is equal to 0. If this is true, that means the current weather is sunny. For checking this is not strictly necessary. We can also use another function to achieve the same result. And the reason why I do this is, later we'll need to use another macro to tell us if it's raining or snowing. Then we can perform different actions accordingly. And for that kind of condition check, having multiple execution pins can come in really handy. And the next thing I did was I created this enum for specifying what's the current landing foot. And once we've made this variable instance editable, we can specify what's the current landing foot inside of our animation. So we only need one nm notify to do this. Then after specifying the current landing bone name, I then started to do the line trace. And these nodes here are for the line trace start, these nodes here are for the line trace end. And for the object types here, I only traced for word static and changed this draw debug type to persistent. Feel free to use these as a reference if you need, or refer back to the video if you need help. And I'll see you in the next lecture.